even harder to smile when all you want to do is frown and cry. I know times is hard.
Hi, welcome to the Ketriana Yvonne show. Today's guest is Malik Turnage of the podcast Conversations with Malik. Malik, welcome to my show.
Hey, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm honored.
Thank you for being here. I just want to say the few words that I know of this man. I live in the neighborhood, and I, called him because I saw you did a great job at marketing. I saw everywhere I went, it was like a card or it was a poster plastered on places I visit. So spiritually, I felt like, okay, I gotta call this guy. I know he has a podcast, but he has to come on the TV show of Ketriana Yvonne. So I'm glad that you were able to make it because I know you do your own podcast.
Yes, I do. Yes,
but,
I do.
Would you like to share with us what your podcast is about, how it came about?
Sure. Wow. So, my podcast is Conversations with Malik, and you can catch us on convoswithmalik.com. And my show is about inspiration through transformation. I don't know, I kind of got touched to do the show. I was telling somebody on the way here, I was talking to a dear friend of mine's, and I kind of began to feel like my life was like Groundhog's Day. Every day was the same. I have no complaints about my life. I'm living a beautiful life. I run several businesses, and I'm doing pretty well for myself. But the lack of purpose wasn't there as much as it used to be. And I'm very active in my community. I live a life of service. My business is a service-based business. I own 2 school bus companies, a preschool, summer camp, after-school program. So my life is a life of service to the community. But when you do something for a long period of time, it can get redundant. And so I was like, God, I was getting still and I was meditating and praying, and I said, God, listen, I'm feeling a little flat right now. I know when I get to those points, there's something that I need to be doing.
Right.
And there's something, and I find what I need to be doing by what it is that I'm giving. And so I was just like, listen, what do you want me to do next? And we were sitting around the table talking. I was talking, and my daughter said, Daddy, why don't you, podcast is the new thing. Why don't you want to get your voice out there? Why don't you do a podcast? And I was like, podcast? And so that was like the beginning seed. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I certainly understand that. Sometimes, even in my own life, you do a lot of things, and then it's like a feeling of, I used to do this was going back years ago, and I'm always doing like 4 things at one time, and then it's like, for me, it's like, well, what is the purpose in it? Like, it could be something that's fun, but you never know how you're gonna, it's just like a hairdresser.
Okay.
Like, it's more about not just doing hair. Like, it's a relationship with the patient or the client that comes in.
Right.
It's a conversation. So there's a transformation that happens between people. So sometimes we look at things and we don't see the purpose. But then sometimes when you go deeper, because I totally understand what you mean, and it's like, for me, my life is, I guess I don't seek like what it is I'm supposed to be doing. I just pray to start my day and to be where I'm supposed to be, meet who I'm supposed to meet.
Right.
And I'm okay with that.
Okay.
So I'm not, like sometimes you're looking to see what you're supposed to do, but you just sometimes have to trust that it'll come.
Yes.
So it seems like the podcast came to you, and the messenger was your daughter.
Yeah.
And and now, like I said, I was just walking down the street, and it says spiritualist.
Yes.
So can
Spirituality.
Huh?
Spirituality.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us like why the title is? Tell us more about like
About this,
the show
right?
and.
So to kind of give you a background of me and why I would do a show like this. I you know I grew up in a very religious household. My mother was a pastor. Religious, and I would say really so kind of socio-political household. We talked about the issues of the day. My father was very active in the community, and my father passed from throat cancer at a very tender age in my life, around 12 or 13.
Mhm.
And I'm from Jamaica, Queens. That was at the time when the hip hop was really beginning to
Mhm.
boom. You figure that was like 84, 85-ish. The culture was changing of the community. Crack cocaine also hit my community very hard.
Mhm.
And I became a very, very resentful and bitter
Mhm.
young man as a result of watching my father die so slowly from cancer. I mean, he
Mhm.
was my Superman. He was
Right.
my everything to me. And being a child of a pastor, I I thought that there was going to be some miracle for my dad, like some
Mhm.
of the miracles in the
Mhm.
Bible.
Mhm.
So when you teach a child something, they take it uh, they take it for face value.
Mhm.
So uh, I became very resentful. I kind of, I guess, turned my back on God. I took to the streets. I was a juvenile delinquent, um, in and out of DFY facilities, uh, in and out of Spofford, getting in trouble, getting arrested, selling drugs. Um, and I went from kind of having a home of a lot of structure because my mother was a stay-at-home mom. Now she had to go find a job,
Mhm.
so she kind of relied on my older sisters to help her with me.
Mhm.
So here you have a bitter young man that lost his superhero, Jamaica Queens, crack cocaine era, hip hop. It was like the perfect solar eclipse for me
Right.
to go one way or the other. And I went the wrong way.
Mhm.
Um, and it was very tough for me. I brought a lot of the harms, a lot of the trials and tribulations I brought on myself. And a lot of my friends, most of my friends, didn't make it through it. Um, a lot of them were brutally killed and were sentenced to long
Mhm.
terms in jail. They were the law enforcement really came down hard in my community, especially after there was a officer that got killed, Officer Eddie Burns. So they called themselves. I remember George Bush had Eddie Burns. Uh, he had his with the police wear. He
Mhm.
had his badge
Mhm.
in the White House, and he said, "Those thugs in Jamaica, Queens."
Mhm.
They think they could kill one of our officers. And, now it's a problem because the
Mhm.
officer's killed,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But there had been a problem in the community.
Right.
And they put together a, a, a task force called the Tactical Narcotics Team, which was TNT. And we're going to go clean up Queens because who those guys think they are.
Right.
Just kill an officer because the
Mhm.
officer was assassinated. And it came down hard in my community.
Mhm.
It was you couldn't walk down the block without getting frisked or arrested. But I didn't care because I stopped caring about me. Right, Ketriana? I
Right.
stopped. So consequences didn't bother me. So when you're underage and you get arrested, your mother could come to the precinct and get you out the precinct.
Mhm.
So my mother would come and get me. I was arrested for selling drugs on the block. She'd come and get me, but now she got to go to work at night. And what happened to me, I went back out on the block. So them same officers are looking like, wait a second, we just
Mhm.
arrested this kid.
Mhm.
So it was, that kind of became my life. And and then of course I'm hurting. So now I'm drinking and I'm using drugs, and anything that you do, uh, addictions are formed from habits. Habits are formed through doing something over
So,
and over and over every day. And so not only was I addicted to the streets, but I was addicted to the substances. I was addicted to the lifestyle, and everything that came with it. And it took me to a lot of dark places. So that's kind of, but I was transformed, right? I went through a transformation because I hit my bottom. And what's amazing is that, I look at the life that I'm living, I look at how good my life is, and the man that I've become. But a lot of my friends, people just like me that did the same exact things as me, didn't have an opportunity to make the transition, right? A lot of them were sentenced to 50 years in prison and over sentenced
right.
for things, or a lot of, or most of them were murdered as a result of, because the streets are dangerous, is a dangerous place, so they didn't get a chance to live to their full potential. And so I walk with that every day. I have pictures of, like, slumber party pictures of me and my friends, good kids with our full, like, length pajama fits with the sticky bottoms, and Superman and Batman, and and I look and I said, what happened to us? We were good kids.
Right.
And so I kind of feel obligated to make sense out of what happened to us, right? And so that's why I started the podcast. Because now, who wants to tell Malik's story, right? Malik's not, LeBron James or Puff Daddy. I'm not a celebrity.
But absent of LeBron James, we know Puff had similar backgrounds, so
Right.
it's lots of people now that are entertainers and doing things in the world, but they came from a background of the streets and they have a story to tell.
Right.
So I guess in your case, do you feel like all of the trials and tribulations that you went through and wanting to represent, like, the people of your youth that didn't get a chance, it's almost like when you were saying that, it's almost like I was listening to Oprah, and Oprah was like, when she comes into her house, it's a picture of, I think it's called The Auction. It's a painting of a slave on an auction block.
Right.
And that, just giving homage to, your ancestors.
Yes.
And knowing what they went through, what you're here to do. So you went through all these things, and you carry the stories and to go forward. So how do you use your podcast, and what is the message of, inspiration that you would have for, this is the opiates era. Not so much to speak to that, because that's another story, but how do you use your podcast to help transform people that are in the streets now? If if they hear you and they say, oh wow, you may catch their attention, and they're going through maybe what you're going through. So how does your podcast, or the stories, or the people you interview, what's the message for them that you want them to know?
That's an excellent question. The message that I would want them to know is that your current reality doesn't necessarily dictate what your future is going to be. That you gotta kind of have a vision for where you want to go, right? That wherever you are right now, it isn't gonna stay that way permanently. You could be in a dark place. You could be in a place that you don't see any way out of. But there are people like Malik, who's an example of, yo, he's been where you've been, and look at him now. But open yourself up to the help that's there. Whatever, open yourself up to the help. Let the help you, and don't tell the help how to help you. I find I spiritually mentor people, and some people come to me and they want to be in my life, and they're like, hey, I think if I talk to him and get this brother in my life, he has insight and maybe he can help me. But then they don't want to do what's suggested. The hard work. Ayanna Van Zandt talks about, you do your work, right?
Right.
And whatever the work is. The work is, that's the hard part. Because then I have to surrender to the fact that I'm not the solution. I don't know what it is I need to do. And could you help me? Whether it's somebody that's suffering from mental health issues, addiction, whatever it is, whether they've been raped or molested as a child, like whatever it is, right? But I find the reason why it's so hard for people to change is because I gotta do something different. I gotta start doing things different in the right here and now that's gonna bring about a different future for myself. And I guess I understand why it's hard, because it was hard for me, because I thought that things were just gonna change through osmosis. I thought that, okay, it can't be this bad forever and something magical is just gonna happen. But the magic is really in that person that was just telling me, hey, I'm gonna pick you up tomorrow and spend some time with you. Right? That was those little magical moments that God and the universe was speaking to me through people who were already around me. And so that would be my message to them, that really open yourself up to the help that's around you.
Right. And that leads to, the proverb, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And that's when people are ready.
And when the
everything
teacher's ready, the student appears.
So you just have to be open and be ready. And people show up. People say things. People can say, I know, even for myself, I have had people cross my mind. And I guess something just came to my spirit to call a person, tell them. It could be something that person is supposed to do. Now, if I call you up and tell you you're supposed to be on my show,
right.
Trust me, it's a reason that you're supposed to be here. Now,
Wow.
if you don't show up, I don't know what's going to happen, but won't be as good as you just listened and showed up. So you showed up, so that's a good thing.
I showed up.
Yeah, that's just one example that I'm going to use.
But isn't that a big part of life, just showing up?
Yes, it is. Yep. When you show up, the solution, the people, everything shows up and is ready for you. But when you're not ready, and you're questioning how I'm going to do it. Oh, they don't, and you're not listening to people. Like I've learned, I guess, in my life, if anybody says anything to me and they're of age, and it could be a child, I'm listening to them, because just like you or me, we're all deliverers of messages.
Yes.
So if people listen to the message, then they can move on to the next place, to the next stage. And so I have a book, and people tell me something, I write it down, and it might be something I'm resistant to, but they told me. So I said, that's a message. Okay, let me do this, you know, because I don't always listen. You know, that was a growing part for me
Yeah.
to listen to people.
Yes.
But I learned.
Yes.
So, you know, you have to listen.
Yeah.
So, and most people, they're not going to tell you anything wrong. You know, just like we're living life and you have a podcast and I have a show, it's just people walking around delivering messages.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, they don't need a show to do that.
Yes, that's true.
So,
That's true.
so it's important. So how long have you been doing the podcast now?
I've been doing the podcast. I went and bought my podcast equipment back in, I think it was June of 2017. So it was last June.
Okay.
I went and bought the podcast equipment. And right after that, I got a letter in the mail from MTA. Now, I'm an entrepreneur. For a job that I applied for a train operator, I applied for, what was it, maybe 12 years ago? And so I'm sitting there, and because I consult with people, so talked to a few people, and they said, well, you know, that's a good opportunity. You know, if you could get this and you got your businesses in place, you could go there and work and you could save all those checks for the next 20 years, or you could do 10 years and get vested and have health care and all of this. So the consensus was, Malik, at least just go check it out. And I went. I was in school car, what they call it. They call it school car. You're learning how to be a train operator. And that was tough for me because I'm a hands-on owner, so I kind of like to be there. So I had to let go and turn off my phone. So, you know, letting go. Oh, I got to let go again. Oh, letting go. So I had to let go and trust that my son, who's my manager, I have another guy that's my manager, my mechanic, and my wife helps to run the preschools and everything. I had to trust that everybody was going to do their jobs. And I was there for about 3 or 4 months. About 4 months. I started in September, and I really began to like it because I'm in the school bus business. So for 23 years, I'm a bus driver. So they told me that bus operators kind of take to being a train operator really good because it's just, and but then I was thinking about, man, I'm gonna be doing. I said, man, look, I'm already making good money with my businesses. Now with this, I'm gonna be like a millionaire when I retire. And then Spirit said to me, but that's not why I saved you. I didn't spare you for you to just have your personal riches and glory.
Personal comfort.
I spared you for you to be a carrier of my message. Because if I thought you wasn't going to carry my message, you could have went the way of everybody else. And I resigned. I resigned just to do the podcast. Period. And I've been kind of reborn again with purpose. I talked about the purpose because it's funny, the podcast is teaching me more about me and me interviewing people. It's an ironic twist of the people that I'm meeting, where it's taking me in a short amount of time. So I go, my garage is filthy. It has all of this stuff in it. We just moved to this new house out in Long Island. 2 years ago. So my garage, you can imagine my garage is a storage unit. So now it's like, I want to have my own studio because I'm an entrepreneur.
Right.
I'm an owner. I always think like that.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I got to have my own studio. And so I put all this money into my garage. I don't know if I'll show you pictures of the studio. It's really nice. I convert the garage. I manually pull all of the stuff out and bring contractors in. And I invested all of this money into just being obedient. Because it may never make me money. That's not,
Right. It's
that
not
wasn't the
purpose.
instruction. The instruction
Right.
was to do it.
Right. And that's all you're supposed to follow.
The instruction
you
was to
do,
do it.
you follow, and the podcast might not be the thing that brings the money, but it'll be in another form or another, maybe one of your other businesses, but the obedience of listening. So that's not even for you to figure out. Wow. And I understand that. It's, I'm all for entrepreneurship. My sister, I have to give a shout out to my sister. She just retired from MTA
Okay.
after 27 years.
Nice.
She started in the time, I guess it was 25, 55. So she's still,
Gotcha.
it's a good age to do something else, enjoy life.
Nice.
And I wish her happy retirement.
Nice.
Teresa Green.
Nice.
And so that's interesting. So
Yeah.
you gave that up, you built a studio, and you're following the word and delivering the word through your conversations. And hopefully many will be touched and the words will be received, lives will be transformed.
Yes.
It'll be other people that maybe heard your podcast, said, hey, let me wake up from what I'm doing and get it together. What I'm going through, it just didn't happen to me. It happens to a lot of people. Everybody's going through something,
Yes.
but the thing I guess about life is it can get so heavy. And if you're not talking to someone, you kind of feel like it's only you.
Yep.
But the more people you talk to, it's not everybody.
The more you realize.
I think the message for today is, if you're feeling bad, just pick up the phone. Don't tell anybody what you're going through. Let them tell you what they're going through. And I
Wow.
guarantee you will feel better.
Wow.
Because you will be like, wow, your problem will be gone.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
these are the times we're living in. And even when you look at, suicides, you don't look at other people's lives and say, wow, they got it going on, And maybe that's the pressure for people. Maybe they think that their life is not where it should be because, we're watching TV.
Right.
And it's glamorizing everybody like that they have all these things when they really don't have all of those things. Because when you do the math, you could have a little bit of money and live at a certain level. And then when you have a lot of money, you can have a more lavish lifestyle. But in order to maintain that, you also have to keep working,
Yes.
keep producing.
Yes.
So it kind of levels out to the same thing.
Yes.
So how many things do you need? Because it is going, it happens in a cycle. They're like people that accumulated a lot of things, and then they get rid of them, and they realize that they don't need all these things, and they want to go back to a simple life.
Right.
And I see that pattern happening again. So, the basic thing is to just be happy, and happiness is within us all. It doesn't come from owning some sneakers, doesn't come from a bigger house, it doesn't come from losing weight, it doesn't come from any of those things. It just comes from everyone making a decision that just to be happy
Yes.
from within and try to make other people happy by just being. That's why I guess I'm Ketriana, be love.
Ah.
And in that's all, just be love. And then
be
we're all
love.
okay,
I like that. I like that. See,
'Cause
I was supposed to hear that.
Okay. Because at the end of the day, God's message is to love. And it's
Yes.
simple. But I don't know, we get it kind of twisted and we think it's to look good, do more, and you're just supposed to love.
Yeah.
So, and since I'm talking about love, I just have to because it's on my heart. I have a show, and I have the greatest crew, and they're regular, and they're all here today. And I do not go through
They
any
smiling back there,
day of
too.
my life where that I'm not thankful. I'm thankful for the people that show up for me because you all show up for me all the time. And it
Wow.
doesn't get any better than that. I can say that much. And so I just want to thank you, Stella. I want to thank you, Sally. I want to thank you, David and Eric and Mr. Mark. Thank you all and all the other people that helped me. But this is like my main crew, and they're the best. Thank you.
Oh,
So.
make me cry.
I know, I always get choked up and want to cry because it's important to me to know, for people to know.
Yes.
And I talk about it all the time. It's like, and I can say, even with the things that I do in my life, and when you're on purpose because things just work. I've worked on a lot of crews. I worked with a lot of people. I work a full-time job, and it is a difference. We may get a slow start, but it works out. And it's the one thing that I never worry about because I know. So in that, it's like, okay, I'm on a path, and this, it works out.
Right.
So I stick to that. So, we just headed somewhere. And when that message comes to us, that's where we'll be next.
That's really gotcha.
So I just wanted to say that.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah.
So what else you want to share? So you have all these, you have the bus and the daycare,
Right,
and your
school.
family. They all help, and your children, and yes,
Yeah,
Malik
it's a
is
family-run business.
right. So he has family. Everybody has their part within the family,
Yeah.
and so
But like the beehive.
okay,
Yes.
and so tell people how that is being an entrepreneur and working with your family versus like working at MTA, and how different that experience is.
It's a different dynamic. It's challenging. Sometimes my children grew up in the business. They grew up riding on the buses, being transported to school in the buses, being at the daycare centers, there doing their homework. And as a result, it's kind of two of my children have started their own businesses.
Okay.
My daughter is a clothing designer, and matter of fact, she was just downtown Brooklyn this
Okay.
morning taking care of business. And my son, he started, even though he's in college, he started a clothing company. But I find that, so me and my wife, we have to learn how to turn it on and off when it's time for business, when
Right.
it's not time for business.
Right.
I think I was the one that I learned it last because it would be Saturday evening and I would think of something that we needed to do, and we're like out in the mall, and she's like, okay, can that wait till Monday morning? Like, do we have to discuss this now? But I've learned a lot about myself through being a leader. That with leadership comes a lot of responsibility. You learn patience, you learn tolerance, you learn forgiveness. You learn to look past people's character flaws,
Right.
because you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Right.
You kind of learn the art of putting the best people together, who fits with who.
Right.
So as far as, but I gotta be spiritually grounded
Exactly.
so I can do all those things, because the company is always going to represent its leadership.
Exactly.
I tell people, if you go in a building, you go into a business, and you watch how it's run, it gives you a good idea of who the owners are.
Exactly. And not only that, and I guess as the head of a, I don't even know why, the head of a household, in order to run a household and be the head, your wife is looking to you for guidance in your family. So, that all ties in, and being obedient and know who you follow and how everything kind of works together at the end of the day. So,
And leadership's earned.
yes.
The respect
You
is earned because it's given. It's earned because it's given.
Okay. Yeah, so I was just talking about how it's important as the head of the household to demonstrate that leadership and,
Right.
and bring the message that's delivered to you to guide your family. And so also being that you're doing the podcast, how does, your leadership tie into carrying out the functions of, the message, with your guests, and how does that play into your podcast?
Yeah, I've had people on my show. It's amazing since we started the show how the show is starting to take off. Uh, we've been doing show after show after show after show. I got about 5 shows that are just going to be launched this week, and we're going to, so it's like we have shows in the vault that are,
Huh.
and
You got a vault.
yeah, and like so we've had professional business women coaches on the show, people who work at banks, people, I've had business people on the show where we talk about business strategies and how our personal experiences with businesses. I've had people on the show just as recently. I've had a woman on the show who was raised in her family business that has been there in Jamaica, Queens for 50 years.
Wow.
Right? And her father passed, and she's had to take over the reins of being a leader because her mother's elderly, and to recreate the business. 50 years in itself is a testimony, but to recreate it and be relevant, and they own like the block of all of the businesses that are on the block. And when people come on my show, one of the conversations I have with them is, I'm not on here to be a buffoon and like just to clown around and laugh and joke, or you're just gonna come up on here and plug your book or
Right.
your show or your business. No, you got to be willing to be transparent. If you're not willing to be transparent and to talk about the difficulties, then I'm gonna have to tell you this isn't the show for you. Because it's through talking about the ups and downs of being in business.
Right.
That's how you teach another leader.
Exactly.
Somebody who's running a business, they're gonna hear and they go, oh wow, they went through that. Oh, they failed. Oh wow, that person was homeless. Wait a minute, you lost your house and you own
Right.
that business that's on Merrick Boulevard or
Exactly.
Jamaica Avenue. I didn't know that about you.
Right.
Oh, but you're still around and now you own 3 homes. Oh, I might be at a downtime in my business. Oh, there's hope for me. What did you do different? Oh, they did what? Oh, okay.
Kept on.
Da-da. They cut back in these areas.
Right.
So I tell people, I need you to be willing to give me details, directions, and instructions of how you manage from day to day. You don't got to give me inside tips so that your competition will go, oh, no. But just give me general to kind of help somebody else
Right.
who could be struggling. So yeah.
And that's the thing about business. Every successful person hit bottom before they made it. And Think and Grow Rich, any book you read will tell you. I don't know really maybe that'll be a challenge for somebody to give me like 10 people that made it and never had challenges and never failed. Every successful person I know has the story of success is failure turned upside down.
Yes.
So that's what business is. You
Yes.
got to go through some stuff in order to know what you're doing, because it's not an easy thing, you know. Um, so you have to work through some things. You have to learn, and you only learn by going through it. If it came to you so easy, believe me, some things may come to some people easy, but they don't keep it because they didn't get it by failing first. So what is, I don't know,
Yeah.
the science.
Yeah, yeah, and in us talking, every time we end the show, me and the people are there, and so one of my shows we do on Friday nights, and it's like they're still sitting in there after we record and talking, because the revelations that we didn't necessarily see during our journeys
Right.
come out in the conversation of how we found different inner resources that we didn't know was there. So there's a sister who's a rocket scientist. Her name is Olympia Lipone, and I was listening to her story, and she grew up in South Central LA. She had it rough, and she literally became a rocket scientist. She, 31 of NASA's flights, she was the person, that African American sister, who had to approve.
Right.
The flight didn't go out unless she approved of it. And she had to check over everything and make sure. And she was talking about how everybody tends to think that rocket scientists are smart. So there's the saying, oh, not as smart as a rocket scientist, or it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. She said, it's not that we're smart or brilliant or intelligent. She said, it's that we're not afraid to fail. And people see the successes, but if they worked here with us day in and day out, they would think we're a bunch of idiots.
Right.
And she started laughing. She said, because we get it wrong so many times. But it's every time we get it wrong,
You learn another lesson.
we don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
We know that that's off the table. And in business, I find that that's a lot of, it's funny because I kind of find myself almost not looking to fail, but I find myself looking for the lessons. That I'm not afraid. John Legend made a song, I'm Not Afraid to Fly. And, who do you think you are? I love the record. And I was driving, and I said, oh, shoot, I get what he's saying. I'm not afraid to fly. I want to tell you an amazing story. Around that time that he came out with the record, I didn't live where I was living now. I was living in Laurelton, Queens, and there was a big bush, maybe a little bigger than this, but it was, wow. And it was right outside my door. Like, my front door was like off to the side. And this bird had two chicks, or whatever they were called. And I was like, oh, wow, that's nice. I used to look at them through the window, and she used to catch food and come and feed them and stuff, right? And so this one day, and I was watching them get bigger and everything. I was telling my kids, because I love animals. So this one day, the bird, I came out of the door, and they used to always be scared of me. So if the mom wasn't there and I came out, they would like move and go down, and just hide. This one particular day, I come out, and the thing was calling to me. And it was in the nest, and it was at the edge of the nest trying to call to me. And I'm sitting there like, well, why isn't it afraid of me? And where's the mom? And I'm like, I don't want the mother to come and peck me. Because one day I was like looking at him, and she came down and swooped. And I was like, oh, shoot, I had to jump in my car. And it was calling to me. And I said, oh, wow, it's hungry. And then I said, oh, the mom abandoned it. Because what the mother does, it feeds it,
Mm-hmm.
and then it gets to the point where now you gotta.
Fend for yourself.
So the other one flew away. Its other sibling, brother,
Mm-hmm.
sister, whatever, it flew away. And it was there. Now it wasn't afraid of me no more. It wanted somebody feed me, somebody take care of me.
Or watch me fly.
And I literally sat there and I said to it, I said, I'm sorry, but I can't fly for you.
Mm-hmm.
I said it to the bird around the same time the song was out. I said, I'm sorry, I can't fly for you. You gotta fly on your own. And it was like I had an experience. I said, but I get it. Because in order to fly, you gotta trust something you can't see. You can't see the air.
Right.
So you gotta go off and trust, but you gotta trust what you see might be working for somebody else, because obviously it watched its mother fly back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
It watched its sibling fly away.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, will it work for me?
Mm-hmm.
I see other people doing it. I see other people flying. But is that what I can't see with faith, substance of the things,
Right. Not seeing.
is that going to also work for me like it's working for them? And that's what Conversations with Malik is about. Convoswithmalik.com, convoswithmalik.com. That's what my show is about. I want somebody to watch the show and go, you know what? I don't know if it's going to work. I'm going to jump off this ledge and just flap my wings and hope that what it is that I don't see is going to hold me up. That's what my show is about.
I got it. We got that. So did the little birdie fly?
It wasn't
But
there. It wasn't there a couple
you
days
didn't
later.
even watch and see it? Like, no.
I didn't actually see it, but it wasn't there, so who knows?
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is the website.
That's the website.
Convos with Malik.
Yeah, I got a couple shirts here, so for the staff. Yeah, I hope I got the right sizes.
So
But
you-
if not,
and when-
if I don't have this, sizes, I'll
and
order more
what,
and send them to you guys.
tell us like the time your podcast airs and.
Yeah, so it's the website. So you can just they can just go on the website. On there is my bio, my history. It's kind of explains who and what I am and what we do. Also on the site, there's a link for episodes.
I'll let you just put it there.
Yeah.
Across the.
Yeah. There's a link for episodes. So all you have to do is when you go to the site, just click on the episode links, and it has all of the previous episodes. So you don't have to worry about
When it comes
when it
on.
airs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like a half an hour or
Half hour, hour and a
different
half.
times. Okay.
Sometimes I do something called 7 Minutes of Wisdom
Okay.
with Malik, where I touch on different topics. And so it's cool. It's cool.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So that's been the Ketriana Yvonne show with Convos with Malik. Hope you found value and a lesson, because my show is about people taking a leap of faith, going for what they want to do. And I bring you the people that are out doing it. And we can all do it
Yeah.
because we are those people. So I just want to thank you, Malik, for being a guest.
Thank you.
And wish you all the success
Thank you.
and all the spirit-filled messages for everybody that needs to hear it, that comes on your show and comes into your life. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having me. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Conversations with Malik. I would like to thank everybody who's supporting us. Please check us out on our Facebook page, Conversations with Malik, and check out our website, convoswithmalik.com, convoswithmalik.com. Like us, share us, subscribe, and spread the word and even comment. And today, I'm talking about what is strength in 7 minutes of wisdom with Brother Malik. What is strength?
How should strength be applied? I find that sometimes we're applying strength in the wrong areas. And what we're doing is we're blocking ourselves off from the blessing of surrender. We're blocking ourselves off from the help that is out there to help us get over obstacles and hurdles that are in our way. And what leads to failure is that I'm personally trying to apply strength in an area where I need to be conceding or looking for help. And strength doesn't always have to be used. If you think about martial arts, a lot of martial arts is about redirecting, using the less strength. It's about angles. It's about finesse. It's not always about power. And everybody wants to seek power. Everybody wants to be strong. But nobody wants to rely on the source of real strength. The source of real strength is God. And the God that you believe in, I'm not telling you the God. The source of real strength is inward stillness. The source of real strength is serenity in the mind, stillness in the spirit, and ultra laser focused on the right now present moment. Strength is the ability to forgive. Strength is the ability to accept. Strength is also tolerance. Strength is patience. Strength is endurance. Strength is persistence. Strength is looking past the faults of others. That's also strength. See, everybody think strength is also not saying something when I want to say something. See, everybody think strength is power, direct force. You know, there's power in not doing something that I wanted to do that I know is wrong. There's power in that. It takes a lot of strength not to curse some people out. Ooh, baby. Talk to me, y'all. Talk to me. This is 7 minutes of wisdom. And what happens as a result of some of the things that I don't need to be doing? Strength is not doing things that I don't need to be doing. So what results from that is real fortitude, a reliance upon the divine power that's trying to usher me into greatness. Everybody can be great, but everybody can't rely on the power of the universe, the power of the ancestors. Don't you feel the power around you? Yes, around you. It's there. But it gotta be tapped into correctly. And when you don't tap in correctly, you start to misuse principles of strength the wrong way, and it ultimately leads one into being into a weakened position than you started out in. What's the sense in starting out trying to be strong and wind up weak, wind up falling into a place of despair and a lack of hope? Because the enemy that's there wants to twist proper and godlike qualities and corrupt it, so that, follow me, so that we stop believing in the principles of righteousness, we begin to think that those principles don't work because we've tried them and they failed us. But it wasn't that we've tried principles of righteousness and they failed. It's how we were trying to use the tools that was wrong. If I give you an axe and you use it wrong, you're going to cut your leg off. If I give you a power saw, a weed whacker, and you hold it too low, you're going to chop your toes off. Do weed whackers work? Yes. Properly used, they work well. A drill, a power saw. You put your finger too close to it as you're cutting the wood, you cut your finger right off. But do power saws work? Yes. So we got to learn how to use the tools correctly, because it's in the proper use of the tools that we find the success and we reap the benefits of properly practicing these tools. That's the key, the proper use of strength. And strength are inward, internal qualities that last forever, and if practiced right, leads to ultimate success. Thank you for tuning in on Conversations with Malik. Check us out on convoswithmalik.com. And remember, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. Peace.
But you still got to clean up your backyard. You got more